the biology of the breaking point. Close your eyes for a brief instant and allow the weight of your body to settle where you are, feeling the air move in and out naturally without haste. Perhaps you arrived here carrying an exhaustion that is not just physical, but a weariness of the soul. A feeling that you have been walking through an endless desert where promises of change never seem to bloom. I want you to know, with all the tenderness this moment demands, that I see your effort and I feel your pain. It is human to want to let go and give up when the horizon appears motionless, but what your heart interprets as an end may, in fact, be the pressure necessary for your greatest leap. Often, the moment when everything seems to fall apart is just the stage being cleared so that something new can finally take its place. This sense of rupture is not a sign of failure, but a biological indication that you have reached the limit of your old way of existing. We grew up believing in the myth of linear progress, the idea that life should be a staircase where every step makes us a little happier in a constant and predictable way. However, nature does not work like that, and neither does your biology. Think of the caterpillar that isolates itself in the darkness of the cocoon. To an outside observer, it seems life has stopped, but inside, a complete dissolution is occurring so that the butterfly can emerge. What you call a crisis or stagnation is, in the language of quantum physics, the accumulation of potential energy that precedes a quantum leap. The most difficult moment, the one where the silence of the universe seems most deafening, is precisely the point where your biology is preparing for a change of state, moving from a frequency of survival to a frequency of conscious creation. Within you, there exists what Dr. Bruce Lipton calls the petri dish of the mind, where your cells are continuously bathed in the chemical environment created by your thoughts. If you cultivate the idea that you are broken or that the road has ended, your cells receive the signal and shut down for protection, saving energy for a battle that never arrives. But epigenetics teaches us that you are not a slave to your heredity or your past. You are the architect who alters this internal environment with every new perception. When you begin to understand that your current pain is trying to heal something very old, you change your body's chemistry. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the guardian of your destiny, understanding that the cultural medium of your thoughts dictates whether your cells will flourish or shrink in the face of fear. It is fundamental to recognize that your body, over the years, has ended up transforming into your own subconscious mind, as Dr. Joe Dispenza explains so well. When you decide to change, your body resists because it has become addicted to the emotions of the past, even those that cause you suffering, because for biology, the known is synonymous with safety. When trying to take a step toward the new, your analytical mind enters into conflict with your subconscious body, and this resistance is felt as deep anxiety or a desire to give up. Your body is merely trying to protect you from a future it does not yet know, treating the unknown as a biological threat. Therefore, feel this resistance with compassion. It is only your nervous system trying to keep you alive in the only place it knows, but now you have the wisdom to guide it toward the light. Learning to identify the signal amidst the noise is what differentiates those who give up from those who cross the threshold. There is a constant noise in our nervous system, a static of negative thoughts and ancestral fears trying to convince us that we have reached a dead end. However, the darkness you feel now is not the darkness of a tomb, but the darkness of a womb, where the new you is being gestated in absolute silence. If you learn to silence the analytical mind and listen to the whispers of your intuition, you will realize that this discomfort is proof that you no longer fit into your old life. The weariness you feel is the sign that your soul is ready to rest from fighting and begin to simply be, allowing transformation to occur not through effort, but through conscious surrender to the flow of life. Neural resistance. Why your brain simulates failure. One must have the courage to look at the functioning of our own biology to understand that you are not your suffering, but the observer of it. Your brain, this extraordinary machine that dwells within you, was not designed by evolution to make you happy, to give you peace, or to manifest the abundance you so desire, but rather to keep you alive at all costs. It operates under an ancestral survival mechanism that interprets any change, no matter how positive, as a potential danger. That is why, when you try to heal, when you try to change your vibrational frequency or leave behind an old pain, your brain triggers internal alarms of discomfort. It prefers that you remain in the known past, even if that past is made of sadness and loneliness, because for your warning system, the known is synonymous with survival, while the new is a threatening territory where it does not yet know how to act. In this process of seeking change, it is very common to fall into the dopamine trap, which is the chemical fuel of our immediate motivation. We are accustomed to seeking external validation, a concrete sign, a result that eyes can see, and when this sign does not appear in the time our anxiety demands, a neurochemical collapse occurs within us. This sharp drop in satisfaction levels creates a feeling of emptiness and imminent failure, leading us to believe that nothing is working and that the universe has forgotten us. But this feeling of defeat is not a spiritual truth. It is merely your brain's chemistry reacting to the absence of an immediate reward. When you understand that your manifestation begins in the invisible and that the body needs time to process this new reality, you stop sabotaging your own path and begin to welcome the silence as part of the maturation process. The great turning point happens when you stop fighting against frustration and begin to see it as the necessary noise of an internal recalibration. Imagine that your brain is an old radio being tuned to a new, higher frequency, and between one station and another, what we hear is just static and noise. This discomfort you feel, this urge to cry, and this sensation that you are walking in circles are just your old synaptic connections breaking down to make way for new neural paths. Frustration is not a sign for you to stop, but rather the physical evidence that your brain is being forced out of its comfort zone to form a new mental architecture. It is the sound of the renovation happening inside you, where the walls of the old self are being torn down so that light can finally enter through larger windows. To get through this period, it is essential to exercise a practical and deep perception of the events of your life, changing the narrative you tell yourself every day. Instead of getting lost in the painful question, "Why is this happening to me?" I invite you to take a deep breath and ask your heart, "What is this preparing in me?" This small change of words completely alters your body's chemistry, moving from the state of a victim to the state of a student of life. When you understand that life is not against you, but working in your favor through methods that the logical mind cannot always reach, you begin to relax in the journey itself. You realize that each obstacle is, in fact, training for you to develop the inner strength and resilience necessary to sustain the blessing that is to come. Look at nature and perceive the symphony of cells in every living being that inhabits this world. A seed, to become a tree, must go through the trauma of seeing its shell break, losing all the security that the casing offered so that the sprout can reach the soil and the sun. If the seed could think, it would say it is dying, when in fact it is only being born into a much grander form. In the same way, your old identity, the one that defined itself by pain, loss, or lack, must break so that the new frequency of your being can emerge. Do not fear the breaking, for it is through the cracks of your old armor that the light of your spirit finally begins to shine for the world, revealing the beauty that was always kept inside, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. The paradox of the void, where reality resets. Often, in our journey, we reach a place that feels like a silent desert, an invisible hiatus where the life we knew seems to have dissolved, but the new life we seek so much has not yet appeared. This is the period of the void, a sacred space that most of us interpret as abandonment or failure, when in fact it is the womb of creation. It is the moment when old structures have fallen, old relationships have moved away, and old habits lose their meaning, leaving you in a kind of emotional limbo. I know how much this void scares you, how much it seems to confirm your worst fears of loneliness, but I invite you to look at this space not as a lack, but as a deep cleansing. The universe does not tolerate a vacuum. If it removed the ground from beneath your feet, It is because the new soil being prepared requires you to learn to float in trust before touching solid ground again. At this stage, quantum physics teaches us about superposition, the idea that all possibilities for the future exist right now in the field of infinite choices. The problem is that when we feel lost in the void, our emotional signature tends to become one of defeat and hopelessness, which ends up collapsing the wave function exactly into the reality we do not want. When you say, "Nothing is happening," or "I give up," you are, without realizing it, giving an order to the quantum field to materialize stagnation. Giving up in the void is like turning off the oven just when the bread is starting to rise under the heat. You must keep your inner vision clear, sustaining the emotion of the arrival even when physical eyes only see nothingness. For it is your emotional persistence that forces energy to transform into matter before you. It is essential to understand what we can call the mirror delay, a concept that calms the hearts of those who are tired of waiting. Physical matter is the densest and slowest form of energy. It works like a mirror that takes time to reflect the image in front of it. When you change your internal state, when you decide to forgive, when you choose gratitude instead of complaining, you have already changed at the energetic level, but the physical world takes linear time to process and organize this new information. This delay does not mean the law failed or that you are doing something wrong. It only means the density of the world is reorganizing to align with your new frequency. Do not be fooled by the delay of forms. What you feel inside today is what you will see outside tomorrow, provided you do not change the station before the reflection appears. One of the biggest mistakes we make during this wait is excessive monitoring, that anxious search for external signs that our desire is arriving. When you constantly check the mailbox of life to see if your healing, your love, or your prosperity has arrived, you are sending a powerful message of lack to the universe. The anxiety of one who waits is proof of one who does not yet possess in spirit. Imagine you placed an order at a trusted restaurant. You don't go to the kitchen every 5 minutes to ask if the dish is being made. You simply relax and talk with your friends because you know the food will come. Excessive monitoring is a noise that cancels the order in the quantum field because it vibrates at the frequency of doubt, and doubt is the opposite of manifestation. Allow yourself, then, to embrace the metaphor of the sculptor to understand the beauty of the chaos you live now. You are, at the same time, the sculptor and the work of art, and at this exact moment, you are in the phase where marble is flying in all directions under the hammer blows of life. To those watching from the outside, or those focused only on the debris on the ground, everything seems like a meaningless mess and destruction. But beneath these ruins, beneath the layers of pain and old beliefs that are being forcibly removed, your masterpiece is being revealed. Every blow, every loss, every moment of void is the chisel removing what is not you, so that your true self, bright and whole, can finally breathe. Do not fear the pieces that fall. They were never your essence. They were only what hid your light. The frequency of already is versus wanting. There is a subtle trap in our spirituality that often keeps us stuck in the same place, and that trap lives in the word wanting. When you tell the universe or repeat to yourself that you want a healing very much, that you want a new love very much, or that you want very much to leave loneliness behind, you are mathematically emitting a frequency of lack. The feeling of wanting is born from the perception that something is missing, and since the quantum field is an impersonal mirror of our emotions, it responds by delivering more of the experience of continuing to want. It is a painful cycle where your desire becomes the very obstacle to realization, because you are tuned into lack rather than possession. The great transformation begins when you cross the bridge that separates desire from assumption, moving from being someone who seeks to becoming someone who already is, in spirit and truth. In this journey of alignment, coherence is infinitely more powerful than exhaustive effort. We often believe that if we visualize for hours on end or repeat affirmations until exhaustion, we will force the universe to deliver what we ask. But willpower is a function of the conscious mind that depletes quickly. As Greg Braden teaches us, the secret lies in the union between thought and emotion, creating a coherence between the heart and the brain. 5 minutes in a state of deep peace and gratitude, where you feel the warmth of realization in your chest, has more impact on your biology and the quantum field than 5 hours of forced and anxious visualization. The universe does not hear what you say, it feels what you vibrate. Therefore, the softness of a heart that trusts overcomes the hardness of a mind that fights. Neuroemotional alignment is the sacred technique of training your body to feel the gratitude of a future event before it even manifests in the physical world. For your neural network, there is no difference between a real experience and an experience lived intensely through feeling. If you can close your eyes and feel the relief of being healed or the joy of being loved, your brain begins to fire the same chemical signals as if the event were happening now. By completely ignoring the weight and inhabiting the feeling of the desire fulfilled, you take away the power of linear time and begin to collapse reality in your direction. You are no longer waiting for the world to change so you can feel good. You feel good first, and the world, out of a need for vibrational balance, has no choice but to adjust to your new internal signature. From this moment on, your only and true compass should be joy and the subtle emotional changes that occur within you. Stop looking at your bank balance, medical exams, or an empty house as signs of progress, for they are merely the solidified past. The only real sign that your transformation is sealed is how you feel when no one is watching. If you feel a peace that does not depend on circumstances, if you feel an internal smile that is born for no apparent reason, that is the sign that you have already changed stations. Joy is the indicator that you have disconnected from the frequency of the problem and coupled with the frequency of the solution. This internal change is the absolute guarantee that physical manifestation is only a matter of time. Think of the radio analogy to understand why the struggle seems so hard sometimes. Imagine you wish to hear a wonderful song playing on station 105.1, but your dial is still tuned to the static and sad news of 98.2. It's no use shouting at the radio or begging for the song to play. You must have the gentleness to turn the knob of your vibration until the frequencies coincide. The struggle and weariness you feel are not signs that you are incapable, but rather the friction of living between two stations. You are leaving the old self, but you still look back in fear. The moment you decide to tune, already is, with total surrender. The static disappears, the noise silences, and the melody of your new life begins to play, clear and perfect, filling every space of your being. Subtle signs of the Great Leap. As you advance on this journey of internal reconstruction, life begins to whisper in ways that only an attentive heart can perceive. One of the first and deepest signs that your Great Leap is near is the dissolution of old emotional triggers that once dominated your day. You will notice, almost with surprise, that situations that used to throw you into an abyss of sadness, anger, or anxiety, such as a criticism from a loved one, a financial setback, or the loneliness of a Sunday, can no longer find a hook in your nervous system. It is as if you have become transparent to these arrows. They pass through you without finding resistance. This happens because your biology has changed. Your cells are no longer hungry for the chemistry of stress, and this emotional disinterest in drama is the undeniable proof that you no longer inhabit your old identity. However, it is common that, just before this definitive advance, you encounter what we call the chaos factor. Often, life seems to fall apart in a terrifying way precisely when you have decided to heal. Long-term relationships end, sudden job changes occur, or family structures that seemed solid begin to crumble. I know this hurts, and the first impulse is to believe that everything went wrong. But I ask you to breathe and look again. This chaos is not a punishment. It is the clearing of the land. The universe is removing the debris and old furniture that no longer fit in the mansion you are building inside. For the new to enter, space must be vacated, and this external reorganization is merely a reflection of the order you have finally established in your spirit. Over time, the frantic anxiety for manifestation gives way to a silent certainty, a calm and unshakable knowing that needs no external proof to exist. It is a state of mind where you stop asking when and start living the now with an almost objective security, like one who knows the sun will rise tomorrow without needing to watch the horizon all night. This shift from effort to knowing is the sign that you have left the field of struggle and entered the field of grace. You feel that the path is safe, not because the world outside has changed, but because your internal authority has been restored. You become the master of your own emotional state, and this peace is the greatest sign that the physical world is about to surrender to your new frequency. At this stage, you will begin to notice synchronicities, which are like affectionate winks from the quantum field indicating you are in the correct flow. They are not mere coincidences. They are non-linear encounters, phrases in books that answer thoughts you didn't even verbalize, or the unexpected appearance of people who bring exactly the tool you needed. These synchronicities are physical evidence that your internal and external worlds are finally merging. The universe is talking to you, confirming that your vibration has found its destination. Each small sign is a reminder that you were never alone, and that there is a loving intelligence orchestrating every detail of your transformation as you learn to trust the magic of the invisible. Always remember the butterfly's struggle to leave the cocoon and the sacred importance of that final effort. If someone, out of pity, decides to cut the cocoon to facilitate the butterfly's exit, it will never be able to fly, for it is precisely the effort of squeezing through the small opening that pumps the vital fluid from the body cavities into the wings. Without this pressure, the wings remain shriveled and useless. The weariness you feel today, this final weight that seems to demand everything from you, is what is strengthening your spirit and pumping the strength necessary for your new life. Do not try to rush the end of the process or flee from discomfort. This effort is what is preparing you to sustain the freedom that is just ahead, waiting for you the moment your wings are ready. Transmuting pressure into presence. In this stage of your journey, it is vital that you understand the profound illusion of time and how it can become the greatest obstacle to your peace. The urgency you feel to manifest change, this feverish desire for the pain to end right now, is, in fact, a survival response of your primitive brain. When you live in the state of, "I need this to happen soon," your nervous system enters fight or flight mode, which shuts down your frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for creation, intuition, and connection to the quantum field. Haste is the language of lack. It affirms to the universe that you do not have what you desire. To transmute this pressure, you must cultivate presence, understanding that the only moment where life truly happens is here, in this now, where you breathe and where your consciousness dwells. True intentional surrender is not an act of giving up or passivity, but rather the highest form of spiritual courage. Surrendering means that you have defined your destination, kept the clear vision of what you want to live, but had the wisdom to release the how it will happen. When you try to control every detail of the process, you limit the infinite possibilities of the universe to the small capacity of your logical mind. By letting go of the reins and allowing the greater intelligence of life to organize the paths, you remove the weight from your shoulders and allow magic to happen. Surrendering is saying, "I have done my vibrational part. Now I trust in the management of the invisible." It is in this state of deep relaxation that doors that seemed locked begin to open by themselves, without you needing to force the lock. For the days when the desire to give up becomes almost unbearable, I propose a simple 3-step recalibration to reset your nervous system. First, stop what you are doing, breathe deeply, and acknowledge your pain or weariness without any judgment, simply allowing the feeling to exist. Secondly, place your hands over the center of your chest, connecting with the beat of your heart to generate coherence and calm the mental chaos. Finally, affirm to yourself in a gentle whisper, "My biology responds to my spirituality now, This small ritual interrupts the stress cycle and returns the command of your own internal house to you, reminding your cells that the master is present and that everything is in perfect order, even if the world outside still seems in turmoil. On this path, learn to value the power of the micro-victory, finding small evidence of flow in your daily life, even if it seems unrelated to your grand desire. It might be the beauty of a flower that bloomed on your path, an unexpected call from a friend, or the simple fact that you managed to sleep in peace. By focusing on these small drops of abundance, you train your reticular activating system, RAS, to look for what is working, instead of reinforcing what seems to be missing. These micro-victories act as anchors of reality that keep your frequency high, proving to your subconscious that the flow of life is generous and that you are already part of it, one small step at a time. Always remember the deep roots and the example of the Chinese bamboo to calm your soul in moments of apparent stagnation. For 5 years, this plant grows only downwards, developing an incredibly complex and strong root system, without a single sprout being seen above the surface. If a hurried observer looked, they would say nothing is happening, that the effort was in vain. However, after those 5 years of invisible work, the bamboo shoots up and grows 25 meters high in a few weeks. Your current feeling that nothing is changing is, in fact, your massive root-building phase. You are creating the emotional and spiritual base necessary to sustain the height of the destiny that awaits you. Without this time in the darkness of the earth, you would not have the strength to withstand the light from above. The final alchemical marriage. As we reach the end of this reflection, it is fundamental that you understand that the transformation you seek is not a random event or a favor the universe decides to grant you, but rather an alchemical marriage between your consciousness and your biology. What we call a miracle is, in fact, a biological inevitability that occurs when your internal environment remains consistent, regardless of the storms blowing outside. Science and soul merge the moment you take command of your state of being, stopping your reaction to the world to begin creating it. You are not a lost fragment in the cosmos trying to survive. You are the quantum field itself experiencing itself through a human body. And when this truth finally lands, fear loses its job and peace becomes your permanent residence. Always remember your epigenetic command. For as Dr. Bruce Lipton so masterfully teaches us, you are the sovereign architect of your stem cells and your destiny. Your cells do not have ears, but they feel every vibration of every thought you sustain for more than a few seconds. Your persistent emotional state is the project, the blueprint that your body uses to rebuild itself with every new dawn. If you inhabit the frequency of healing, your cells will follow that project. If you inhabit the frequency of lack, they will reflect scarcity. You possess the keys to the internal pharmacy and the laboratory of reality in your hands. Your role is only one: to keep the project of your new self clean, clear, and bathed in the light of acceptance, without allowing the old shadows of the past to blur the drawing of your future. In this constant dialogue with the invisible, never forget that the language of the divine is feeling, not words. The divine matrix, spoken of by Greg Braden, works like an immense cosmic mirror that only responds to what you are capable of feeling as truth now. It does not understand desperate pleas or requests made from pain, for pain only attracts more pain. It responds to anticipated gratitude, to the deep relief of knowing that your request has already been heard and answered in the plane of pure consciousness. Therefore, stop asking and start feeling. Stop searching outside and start overflowing from within. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you vibrate, and the vibration of thank you is the secret code that opens all the doors of the field of infinite possibilities. I leave you now with a final and loving invitation. Learn to remain still in the center of your own storm. When the world around you seems chaotic and the voices of doubt scream that nothing has changed, take a deep breath and smile at yourself in the mirror of the soul. Know that this storm did not come to destroy you, but to be the very wind that clears the path and brings the new season to your life. What seems to be a gale of loss is, in fact, the necessary breath to blow away the dry leaves and allow new buds to flourish. You are being prepared for something so grand that your current mind cannot yet process it, but your heart, this silent sage, already knows that victory is just a natural consequence of your persistence in the light. Use the metaphor of the horizon to guide your steps on the days when the path seems too steep. When we are climbing a mountain, our field of vision is limited by the slope and by fatigue. Often we cannot see the peak or the final destination until we reach it with the very last step. But feel the warmth in your chest and the sting in your muscles as the physical and irrefutable proof that you are climbing, that you are evolving, and that you are much closer to the top than you were yesterday. The effort you make now is what makes the view from the top so precious. And what if the pain you feel today is, in fact, the portal of light to the life you have always sought? And what if this moment of nearly giving up is just the last breath of your old self before you finally awaken to your true divinity? Believe, for the universe never fails those who have learned to trust.